I have a confession. Despite peaking at Champion 3, which is statistically considered to be one of the top 4% of players in the entire world at Rocket League, I never learned how to speed flip. For those of you that may not be aware, a speed flip is a mechanic used in Rocket League to move around quickly on the field. When executed properly, a speed flip can easily outpace your opponents in important situations, like a face-off. It is essentially a diagonal flip, but instead of allowing your car to flip completely over, you cancel the flip so that you never end up flipping over. This allows you to gain all of the speed advantages of flipping, while also maintaining your boost trail directly behind your car, which optimizes your speed. I've always felt pretty decent about my gameplay because I could maneuver around the field and generally know the right spot to be, but my mechanics are part of the reason I haven't made it to Grand Champion yet. That all changes with this experiment. I wanted to know what would happen if I didn't allow myself to do anything in Rocket League other than speed flipping for 5 consecutive hours. The time was allowed to be spaced out over a few days, but all I was allowed to do in-game was speed flip. We're taking this from basically ground zero to complete mastery. Could it be done with 5 hours of intense training? Let's see how it went. Now for starters, I have executed a speed flip before, but it's very inconsistent. If you remember my skill grades from a previous video, on a scale of 1 to 5, I would rate myself a 2 at speed flips before this experiment started. So the goal for us is to ultimately take this from a 2 to a 5. Also, if you aren't aware of this, the Bacchus Mod plugin for PC has excellent tools to help you with learning the fundamentals of speed flipping. I've linked it in the description below if you don't already have it, and for console players, don't worry, I'll still go over the major details here. Some of the key elements of a successful speed flip are as follows. 1. Your diagonal flip has to be at the correct angle. You don't want your car flipping laterally to the side, and you don't want to flip directly over your nose either. Think about flipping at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock to give you an idea. You have to start your flip timely. If you wait too late to flip, you won't be supersonic by the time you need it. You have to cancel your flip very timely. Canceling the flip is the biggest part of the mechanic in my opinion, and probably the hardest to execute. Canceling too late will make your car nosedive or just generally awkward, and canceling too early might result in you backflipping. The cancel has to be executed very quickly, and it should be straight down at 6 o'clock. You have to boost the entire way through. It's easy to forget about this, but if you want to optimize your speed, you can't let go of boost. Finally, you have to air roll just slightly at the very end. The air roll just ensures that you land properly on your wheels. If you watched our camera and controls video, you know that we like air roll and power slide on the same keybind for this exact reason. In case we air roll into a power slide, it ends up being nice and smooth. Clear as mud? Perfect. Let's get grinding. The first hour was pretty much what you would have expected. Not flipping at the right angle, trying to cancel the flip too early and backflipping, trying to cancel the flip too late and nosediving. Basically everything you would expect to go wrong did. The key for me during this phase wasn't necessarily to get the entire thing right, but to at least get phases of it right. Was I flipping at the proper angle? Was my timing okay? I knew that if I could get the timing and the angles right, the flip would kinda take care of itself. Hour 2 felt like more of the same, but a little confidence was growing from hitting some of the things the right way. It still wasn't getting a lot better, but you could tell the pieces were starting to come together. I broke my own rule, and after 30 minutes of training, I jumped into some casual games to test it out live. I did feel really good on one of the kickoffs by completely beating the opponent to the ball, but I did completely whiff on another one. An odd side effect though of all this speed training is I really started to feel more confident on the field. Like I knew I could do something that my opponent couldn't do, and it gave me a lot of confidence in my challenges. I ended up winning MVP in both games that I played despite not being perfect on speed flips, so for now it's back to the grind. It's hour 3, and at this point, I'm so sick of speed flipping. It's like trying to force down food you don't like or studying for a test. I'd rather do anything except this. It's still not super consistent, and although I do feel like I'm doing it more often, at this point I'm really just questioning if a breakthrough is ever even coming before this is over. I decided to switch it up a little bit and remove the Bacchus Mod tech for this hour just to see if I could figure it out on my own, and that definitely helped. It made me more aware of the mistakes that I was making, and specifically for me, my flip kept moving too laterally instead of a true diagonal flip. I also was not really holding the cancel the entire way through. Really emphasizing the hold of the cancel allowed me to make contact more often. It felt like hour 3 was the first point of the training where I really started to make some progress, even though it was probably the hardest part of the grind. I made it a rule that I couldn't ever stop my training session from this point going forward until I hit 3 speed flips in a row. This is where I started to implement some real face-offs, and it did feel like my execution of the speed flips started to get better finally. It still wasn't where I wanted it to be, be, but it was noticeably better. I also took a minute in this section just to work on the diagonal flip and the cancel mechanic for a bit by itself. I felt like removing all of the speed of it and just honing in on the skills would be helpful, and it definitely was at this point in my experiment. I did start to feel when I was doing the mechanic correctly by now, and that felt like a huge win, even though I still wasn't doing it correctly every time. We're 5 hours in, so did it work? I would say sort of. Some progress has definitely been made, and I'll go on runs where I hit it multiple times in a row. But even still, I'll go on runs where I can't do it at all. I do feel like I know when I'm doing it wrong at this point, and that in itself feels like a huge difference to where it was when I started. And I am executing it much more than I used to, and I'm hitting it multiple times in a row, which I never used to do before. I would say the grind is definitely worth it. I feel like with another 2 to 3 hours of grinding, I'd have it down consistently. If you're struggling with the mechanic, I would highly recommend spending blocks of time to get to know the mechanic better, and I'm confident you'll improve at it. You may not have dedicated as much time as you think you have. I know I've worked it before, but honestly just sitting there and speed flipping for 30 minutes when you're staring at the clock feels like a lifetime. Well, thanks for watching. As always, any support that you can provide with either a like, comment, or subscription really helps a small channel like mine get more viewers. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found this helpful or entertaining in some way. See you next time.